And welcome to our annual Halloween show. How's it going?
Well, you sound so excited.
I do. I know. Well, I mean, it's my favorite time of the year, right? So
you're not convincing me. I'm sorry.
I'm not convincing you? Well, you can go screw yourself then.
Come on. It's like when I ask you what's new, Alex. Nothing.
That's right. That's just become a staple now, right?
Well, yeah, but it's Halloween. Come on. Well, technically it's not, but I mean,
this is why I invested in these lights. Keep it red.
Those, I don't know. They kind of remind me of Christmas lights.
Well, okay, fine.
It's all in how you look at it. I mean, you could see that as the reddish glow of hellfire.
This is true.
In this context.
See, he's got the point there. Eh? How about
come
this?
On, stop.
Oh,
Mr.
there
X,
you go.
Mr. X, you're stroking his ego. Come on, stop that.
See, now it's Christmas time. See?
There you go.
Thanks for joining us tonight, guys. Yeah, like Alex alluded to, it's our annual Halloween special, and tonight we've got a special guest that's returning, Mr. X of Mr.X Dreams, very popular podcast here on YouTube. If you've not checked it out, check it out, man. There's, like I said, Mr. X has the perfect voice for the stories that he shares and the experiences. I'm sorry, am I stroking your ego? No, I'm not.
No, I can handle it. It's all right.
There you go.
Thanks for joining us, man. It's really great to have you back.
By the way, everyone,
anytime.
His link's on the description.
Yeah, the link's there in the description to go check out the show, and I highly recommend it. Really great. Always good to catch up and listen to. Like, I don't think I've seen all the shows, but that's what I love about it. I can keep going back and checking out a show in the archives, and you're not disappointed, man. So really, okay, let me ask you. So the stories that are submitted to you, what's the process exactly? Okay, people email you, people call you, they give you these stories, and then what do you do with them?
Okay, well that's a good question. First of all, what's up, everybody? Mr.X Dreams, as you've been told a couple times by now. Thanks for having me here, guys. Steve, Alex, appreciate you guys. Great to see you guys again.
Yeah.
And talk to you. It was a great time last time. Looking forward to tonight as well. So, how do I process? What's the process with these stories? Typically, somebody hits me up on one of the many avenues in which I've made myself available, maybe too many, whether it's a message on Instagram, Twitter, more than likely it's an email. And a lot of times, I don't want to put anyone down or anything, but sometimes I can't take I can pretty much never take what is originally said to me and just read that out and have that be the type of story that I like to put on my channel. So, and I'm not knocking anybody. Some people, I will knock them because sometimes they don't put that much effort into writing a story or telling me what they need to tell me. They leave out details, and I got to ask a bunch of questions, figure out what the heck was going on. But a lot of times, and I really love this, and for any of you who've got a scary story or something that happened to you, please, it would make me smile if you wait to give me the information for a time when you're into it, you're remembering it vividly, and you're able to give me some description and provide the context and information that I need to know what happened. That's my favorite. That's my favorite thing to deal with when somebody's got, they tell me where they were, when this happened, who they are, and the details of what happened without being vague or trying to be cryptic or trying to sound cool, things like that. But whatever the case may be, whatever the person sends me in a message, I basically interpret that and sort of put it through my own brain, and what comes out is a story sort of in my, with the details and everything. I don't add details or embellish things really, but it comes out in the way that I would tell it if it had happened to me, pretty much. And it's just I put my own style on the existing information, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. And you know why? You do a great job at it.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Have you had an email or, well, somebody submit a story or an experience that just completely blew you away? You're like, okay, how do I convert this? I mean, this is just so incredible. I just don't know how to, convert it, translate it to my listeners, viewers.
There have been a few that were so vast in scope that I literally put it down and, procrastinated on it for months because I knew how difficult it was going to be to craft a narrative out of the sheer volume of information. One example of that is one of my old school subscribers sent me a story about a series of dreams that, well, not even a series of dreams. It's pretty much an extended dream that lasted nearly a lifetime, lasted years. And that she was in this dream for years.
Oh, wow.
And she described this entire kind of indigenous people culture that seemed to be of Earth, but there was a lot different. There was just enough different where it could have been on some higher plane or another planet, another civilization of human-like people, because the characters in this dream were human, but their ways and their capabilities were very different than what we know of today. And this woman lived a lifetime as another person, kind of like a matriarch, a young matriarchal figure of this tribe. And she lived and died there, made friends and everything. And there was this huge, amazing story. And I was able to sort of condense that into I don't know if it was a 20 or 30 minute long story in my style of writing. And I was also fortunate later to do a kind of podcast interview with that same woman and just talk to her about it directly. But that was one of those stories where I was like, man, I'm gonna have to come back to this when I'm really ready to sit down and write, because this thing is deep and it's wide as well. If it makes sense.
It sounds like it. Only that sounds.
Imagine
incredible.
living like that. I mean, imagine going through something like that. That's insane. Just to think about it.
The human mind is an enigma.
Yeah.
In some ways, that you could go to sleep for one night and be in a dream for what feels like weeks.
Yeah. And the thought of, being in that dream and yet only remembering bits and pieces of it. Imagine if you can remember the whole dream.
Yeah.
I barely remember.
Well, I know.
To the point where you almost forget your normal life, like your actual waking life.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're going through a dream that intense, it would seem like that would be reality and everything else was a dream.
Yeah.
It kind of mess up with
reality.
My favorite movie of all time, The Matrix. One of the most influential characters in human history for me personally, Morpheus, played by Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
There's a line where when he's speaking to Neo, where he says, "What if you were having a dream that you were so sure was real? But what if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you tell the difference between the dream world and the real world?" And
Imagine-
it really makes you think, how do you, if your brain is telling you everything in a dream that it tells you when you're awake. So there would literally be no way for you to know.
Yep.
I mean, put it this way, the possibility of us living, like, are we living in a dream? Is real life to us right now a dream and we have not woken up?
Yeah.
Now we're getting into some philosophical shit.
Well, I mean, that's what dreams really are.
No,
I mean,
I know. I'm just, I'm just being a shit disturber here. But yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah. Well, no, that is what shit's for. It's for disturbing,
That's right.
I like it.
exactly.
I dig it.
Well, yeah. I see what you did there. Dig it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Pun intended.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's trippy though, because you know what? Like, I mean, I've mentioned this before on the show multiple times. I don't typically remember my dreams unless the dream is so messed up that it just stays in my mind for the remainder of the day. And I've had a couple of those dreams. I've even gotten over my fear of flying through a dream. Right. So I've had those really intense dreams, but they're just so seldom that it's like, I go to sleep and wake up the next day. And it's like, yeah, I don't even know if I dreamt or not. I mean, I probably did, but I just don't remember anything.
How'd you lose your fear of flying?
Well,
What
okay.
was that dream like?
It was one of those really, vivid dreams, right? Where I felt the sensation of flying inside the dream, which is really how I got over my fear of flying. And I was like maybe 10 years old when this happened. And it was just one, and I'll recount the story quickly. I was a kid, obviously, playing at the bottom of a grassy hill. On the top, there was a house that was supposed to be my house, right? My mom calls me to come home to eat dinner, so I'm running up the hill. And beyond the house is just a sheer drop cliff. And as I'm walking beside the house to go to the door, I trip over a rock and I fall forward, but I don't land on the ground. I start floating. And I'm floating towards the cliff. And I'm trying to stop myself. I'm trying to wave my arms backwards to see if I can move myself backwards. Nothing I did would stop me. And as I, passed the sort of edge there, I just dropped down like a roller coaster and I felt my stomach in my throat. But then before I hit the ground, I leveled off and I started flying and I could feel the sensation of flying. And that's what got me over the fear of flying.
Because you enjoyed that.
I loved it. It was great. Yeah.
Have you had that happen since? Have you flown in your dreams since then?
I haven't flown. I have had another dream where I just sort of kind of floated a little, but not really flown.
Yeah.
You're still floating. You're still flying.
Well, yeah, flying high maybe. But yeah, that's a different story. Yeah, no, I was just that one was a really good dream. The other one was just where I was floating was just a messed up dream altogether, where I was I was in a dried up riverbed with my car. I don't know why, but
oh wow,
car broke down, and then all of a sudden the river started flowing. I'm like, oh fuck, right? So go up the bank, and or I get washed away into some place in the woods, and I'm getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. And I'm in somewhere in the woods, and I hear this chanting in the distance. And then someone comes by and gives me some kind of lotion to repel the mosquito so I wouldn't get bitten half to death. So, and he says, follow me. So he was taking me, I guess, to where this chanting was happening. And as I'm walking, I again trip one more time, this time over a log. And I don't fall, obviously, to the ground. I start floating. And, it was just there, and I was floating, and I kept hearing this chanting, and I just woke up. So I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
That's some pretty intense dreams. The few I've had.
It's really interesting that the few dreams that you do remember, you remember them so vividly.
Yeah.
But you rarely remember any dreams at all.
That's right.
I think that's a kind of a unique thing. I don't hear, it's normally all or nothing. Like, someone pretty much remembers most of their dreams, or someone remembers almost no dreams.
Yeah. Number one fan says, what did you take before we went to bed? Nothing, actually. Believe it or not, I was actually very sober. I didn't even have any alcohol, nothing. It's completely sober.
But I mean that's an important factor too. I mean, it's things that you eat, things that you drink.
Yeah.
Before you go to bed, like you can eat ice cream, for instance, and literally have these intense dreams.
Yeah.
There's certain foods that you can eat that really prop up your sort of vividness or awareness to what you're dreaming.
Yeah.
Is
Definitely.
it the melatonin? The melatonin is what actually gets you to sleep, more or less.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what triggers the? Do we even know what triggers dreams?
I don't know that we know. I know when I take melatonin and or magnesium, my dreams are always interesting during nights when I take those two vitamin supplements.
Interesting.
I don't think I've never taken. I don't think either one of them. I've never really
I've
had
tried
a
melatonin.
sleeping problem.
I've tried melatonin, and I didn't remember any dreams when I woke up either. But and that's the thing, because I've had ice cream before going to sleep in the past. Nothing. Alcohol, obviously, that if anything, that has the opposite effect. You probably won't remember anything if you drink. I've had different types of foods before going to sleep, and you know what? I tried melatonin. I want to try. I hope no one
try magnesium.
I was going to say I hope no one important is listening, but I want to try peyote. See what kind of messed up dream I have out of that.
14-hour trip there, that's for sure.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh God. Minimum. God, make sure you're in the middle of a desert when you do that.
Yeah.
You have lots of running space.
Do we want to play the stories now, or do you want to wait a little bit?
Yeah, well, okay. Well, let's sort of get this time of the season. It's Halloween Sunday, and a lot of people think about the thinning of the veil and all that kind of stuff, and all the spooky stories and the atmosphere, and especially up here in the north, with the changing of the landscape, if you will, and the weather and everything else that sort of gets you in the mood. What are your thoughts about this time of the year, Mr. X?
Well, I mean, honestly, I do enjoy seeing the increased focus on spooky things, stuff like that. I kind of like seeing that around in general, but just because it's kind of fun, and I'm sure if it wasn't for the current how should I say, situation going on outside, maybe I'd be out and about scaring people a little bit more often. But I would have to say, back in the day, I remember, because earlier you mentioned asked if there was like an uptick or something in the crazy weird things that come across my inbox, for example. That used to happen quite a bit, but lately I haven't really been noticing anything out of the ordinary when it comes to this season. I do remember getting some really gnarly stuff around the Halloween time frame in the earlier years when I was starting my channel. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe people have just mellowed out a little bit.
Let me send you an email. We'll take care of that right away.
Okay. Obviously, with how things have gone over the past couple years, I mean, I don't know. This year, I'm really having a tough time getting into the sort of the Halloween. It to me, it doesn't feel like Halloween this year. I don't know. I don't know. Does it feel like that to you, Alex?
No. Well, I mean, there's a couple of contributing factors. Obviously, the pandemic is one of them. But the other thing is that up until not too long ago, it's been extremely mild for October.
Well, that too. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been
and the
very
leaves
mild
have
for October.
started changing later than they normally do. So that it doesn't. Typically, towards mid to late September, you'll start seeing the leaves changing color, and it'll give you that time to sort of build up. But I mean, they started really late this year, and the mild temperature didn't help. So I mean, you're right. It doesn't feel like it normally does for me either.
No, it doesn't. I mean, like the tree in front of my house, usually the leaves have already changed and falling off. They're still pretty green.
Yeah. Well, they're saying give it a couple more decades, and where we live here is going to be considered the new Florida.
Well, they're saying
the
axis of the poles shifting, and there's all sorts of things that they've been saying over the years that the equator is going to move, and it's going to flip.
All those hollow Earth people are trying to get the things in gear, right?
Hollow Earth or flat Earth?
No. Let's not get into that. Let's not get into that
There's got to
debate.
be like a war or something that comes out of that at some point.
Yeah.
The hollow earthers versus the flat earthers.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it.
It's like I've always said, things take care of themselves.
Well, it's funny. You don't really hear those two sort of groupings together that often.
No,
because
they're mortal enemies.
That's right.
Yeah.
They both have such strong beliefs in their own sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, but that it clashes with the other, right?
Exactly.
I mean, there's so much infighting even within the flat Earth community, right?
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
I know. So
we wish them all the best.
That's right.
Exactly. So you've been kind enough to provide us with a few stories, a few samples into what you sort of cover with your show and what you do with your podcast, and what people can expect if they go check it out. And I do highly recommend you do. So we've got 3 stories. I don't know. Let's get into the first one.
Yep. The first one, just so you know, it's
let's do it.
The mimic one. Do you want me to play it first, or do you want to discuss it first?
Well, give you a quick preface for it. This is one of the older stories, one of the first couple waves of stories that I got when I started taking submissions from subscribers, and I released it about 5 years ago, and a couple months ago I actually revamped and rewrote it, re-recorded it, new sound effects, everything, and that's what I sent you for that. Okay. It's one of the most unsettling ideas in a story, in an encounter story that I've come across.
All right.
You'll see why.
All right, here we go. Right. We're going to play it now.
This story was referenced in a recent video about a little girl and her mimic/doppelganger. Per your request, I present to you the disturbing, true encounter with yet another strange entity from beyond the veil. After hearing this story, I hope you will answer the question I'll pose as to which element is the creepiest, because there are several to choose from. Dear Mr. X, it's me, Randy. I wanted to tell you about some of the bizarre experiences my family and I have been dealing with over the past couple of years. I really hope that you or someone you know can explain this, somehow. It's gotten to the point where my wife and I almost accept everything as is, no matter how insane it may seem. So, my wife and I recently had our second child, a little baby boy. Not long after my son was born, I started suffering from these intense episodes of what I thought, at the time, was some form of sleep paralysis. I'll give you an example. One night, we were sleeping in our bed while my son lay peacefully asleep in his crib not 10 feet away from us. I'm a pretty light sleeper, but even more so since becoming a father. I'm easily awakened and often get startled several times during my sleep cycle. On this night, I was awoken by a strange noise in the room. My eyes darted around in the dark. The sound was close by. It took a few seconds for me to adjust and focus my vision. When the image became clear, I saw something no parent would ever want to see. Hunched over my son's crib was a thing I still struggle to explain. This creature, the only way I could think to describe it was that it was like a gigantic centipede. Its body was at least 9 or 10 feet long, coiled and contorted with part of it reaching all the way up to brush against my ceiling. Its countless legs were twisted and warped, as each one attached to the wooden bars on the crib. Its head slowly turned around toward me, and the confusion and panic of the moment only deepened. Attached to what I would assume was the head of this terrifying creature, staring back at me in the dim light of the room, was a pale white, mask-like structure that resembled a human face. It had black eye holes and a twisted, gaping mouth. Smaller centipedes crawled all over its body and head, creating a sickening chattering noise that haunts me to this day. Protruding from below the mask, the monster's jaw slacked open, revealing 2 rows of jagged teeth that oozed with reddish liquid. Its hideous form undulated with an unnatural speed. The muffled sound of bones popping underneath flesh rang out constantly into the air. I believe I only stared at the creature for 2 or 3 seconds, but the images and sounds remained buried into my memory. The sight struck me with pure terror, but the emotion was soon met with feelings of utter paternal rage. The fear gave way to the realization that the creature was encroaching on my son. I somehow overcame that visceral fear and repulsion at what I was seeing and leapt out of my bed, lunging toward the beast. Before my very eyes, it vanished instantly, leaving nothing but an eerie, laugh-like noise in the air of my room. At that point, I suddenly noticed I was sweating profusely and looked down to check on my son. He was sleeping as soundly as ever, thankfully. I went to the bathroom to wash my face and saw the clock on my way back to bed. It was around midnight. I was somehow able to get back to sleep after convincing myself it was all a dream or something, but not long afterward, I was awakened again. A similar sound of cackling echoed off the walls in my room. Being so close to sleep, I struggled to open my eyes again. I felt a gentle touch on my shoulder. After a few seconds, I finally got my eyes open. Directly in front of my face was the same white, porcelain-like mask I saw before, but it was changed. This time, carved into it was a similar, smile-like expression. The mask had no insectoid body behind it. It simply floated next to my bed. I was so shocked that I let out a loud yell. It vanished before the sound even left my throat. Holy crap, that's terrifying. I have no idea what that thing was, but I can't shake the feeling that it was somehow related to the events that happened next. A few months after that night, my wife and I began feeling a strange foreign presence in our home. The worst part is that the presence somehow took the form of one of our children. I'll explain. The first time this occurred, I totally flipped out. It was around the time when my son had just learned how to walk. I had a day off from work and had been spending it having fun with the kids. After an entire morning of shenanigans, we decided to all lay down for a nap. About an hour into the nap, I was awakened after hearing the unmistakable sound of my son, the little one, giggling. I lifted my head and saw the little guy standing in the hallway. He ran off just as he noticed me looking at him. My eyes lit up and I smiled as I began to raise myself to go chase him down. But as I did that, I felt a weight on my arm, stopping me. I looked down and realized that my son, the same one I just saw run off into the hallway, was still fast asleep on my arm. I felt like someone had literally grabbed my heart and squeezed it with all their might. I let him down gently and proceeded to check every room in the house. I found nothing out of place, but that fact brought me no comfort. I know this is all pretty hard to believe, but it happened again one day while I was at work. I used to work swing shifts, and when I was on break, talking with my wife over the phone as she put the kids down to sleep, she briefly put me on speaker to say goodnight to them. and I heard her close the door to their room. As she started to walk down the hall toward the living room, she paused. I was left in suspense for a moment, wondering what was going on. I could hear the faint sound of troubled gasps, but she just stood there, frozen. She didn't say a word until I finally asked her what's going on. Suddenly, I heard footsteps hitting the ground hard as she sprinted back up the hall. I began to feel panic washing over my face as I asked her over and over again, "What's going on?" She eventually seemed to get a hold of herself and managed to whisper that she just saw something out of place. A child playing in the living room. It was totally impossible for either of the kids to have gotten past her. I could sense the fear in her voice. My voice cracked as I struggled to find a way to comfort her, to find words that would put her at ease. I felt utterly helpless by being so far away that night. The best I could do was tell her to go to the children, protect them and pray over them. She made her way back to the room and found them still asleep, and she stayed there until I got home. I found her asleep in one of their beds. So many similar things have happened since that night that we've sort of gotten accustomed to it. Fleeting glimpses of a misplaced, extra child seen in various parts of the house. My wife and I even joke that it feels like we have 3 children now instead of 2. Anyway, thanks again for sharing my story, Mr. X. I'll let you know if anything else of note occurs. As you know, I'm well aware that this world is full of things that we can't explain. I'll tell you what though, I hope I never see that creature again.
Wow.
That's intense.
That is really intense, man.
And I listened to that one before. I remember that one.
I have not heard that one. That one's number one fan says they're not going to be sleeping tonight.
That's the whole point of this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
we want you to we want you to go to sleep and scream.
You know, have you had a story like this that was really intense? You know, a story that you know was so intense that it really had you looking behind you. You know, like, oh wow, this. When you're thinking about translating it and going, you've got goosebumps, shivers.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, so profound.
Absolutely.
Because that certainly strikes me as one of those that just wow.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of factors in there too, because they had a new baby. Obviously, then the father would be worried about the baby in itself. But to see something like that, just, you know, kind of peering down over the crib, it's like, ugh. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. That took it to another level. I mean, it's already when you have your kids possibly being in danger, that's one thing. But then seeing another, like a copy of your kid where they're not supposed to be and you're holding your kid.
Yep.
That's another thing.
Yep.
And then a weird, unfathomable Lovecraftian beast is also involved at some point. And, you know, like what's connected to what? I mean, is that thing taking the form of your child, or is this 2 different random monsters are in your house? You know, who knows? Exactly. It's all very, very interesting stuff to think about and to rack your brain and theorize and all kinds of stuff like that. That's one of the things that I love the most about what I do on this channel.
Yeah, it's what the heck was that?
I have no idea.
I'm tightening my microphone stand.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Sorry about that.
I thought.
What did it sound like to you?
Alex's stomach again.
Yeah. After I have
like
a few burritos,
his stomach was turning. He must have had a big burrito before going live.
I actually I had a burger.
Oh, burger!
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Man,
now you're
jealous.
Downsizing.
Yeah. Well, you know, I got to take a break every now and then, right?
Yeah, I haven't had a good burrito in a long time. We need to go for a good burrito.
I know. I agree. I completely agree.
We'll have to do that soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was completely intense, and wow, to experience something like that, no,
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
I agree.
no,
Yeah.
thanks. Okay, let's move on to the second one.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
It's called Saved by Dead Friend Ghost.
Like
All right,
dead?
so this one, I guess I probably was a little haphazard in the naming of the file that I sent you, but this one's actually pretty recent. I think I got this one from, I recently started going on Reddit, and when people, because sometimes, I look through like the paranormal Reddit threads or cryptids and stuff like that. And if I see something that really speaks out to me a little bit, I'll actually message the person who wrote it and say, hey, you mind if I talk about this? Like kind of tell this story on my channel. And then I do the same. If they say yes, I'll take it, and I'll, like with everything else, I rewrite it into the style that is kind of, the atmospheric style that I use for my videos. And this was one of them. So we'll check it out, and then we'll discuss the implications of it.
Reddit has some really freaky stories, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, they got some really intense. Okay, let's go.
All right, here we go.
It's that time again, my friends. Time for a story that doesn't end in terror, heartbreak, or doom. This story is based on a Reddit post in the r/Ghost Stories channel by Ann Z. Brooke, entitled, My Life Was Saved by a Ghost. The link will be in the description box below if you want to check out the original post, which I highly recommend. There's tons of interesting commentary and questions answered there. My boyfriend of 5 years has crushed on me for about 12 or 13 years. He was 2 grades below me and was the bad boy type, while I was more one of those stereotypical popular girls. I was taking all honors and college-level classes as well, so I wasn't really aware he even existed until I met him at my dad's business about 7 years ago. I only mention this because, apparently, he talked about me being his dream girl and was always teased that it would never happen. So in 2009, he and his best friend, I'll call him Josh, were getting into pills due to Josh's grandfather being an amputee. His grandfather was really bad at hiding his medications, often leaving large amounts of methadone, hydrocodone, and other drugs lying around his house. By the way, this was sort of before the major opioid crisis our generation is dealing with today. 2 days before Christmas 2009, Josh overdosed in the bedroom that my boyfriend is currently staying in. It's a long story, but basically, we moved back to our respective families because we were laid off during the pandemic. Josh died that day in 2009, but ever since then, I could swear I've felt his presence in the room. To this day, that room has never felt spooky to me, but I believe Josh, or whatever may be left of him, might be in the habit of pulling pranks on me from the other side. We have come to think of it as his way of congratulating my boyfriend on being with the woman he waited for so long. I've woken up to sticky notes completely covering my body, my drinks being poured all over the floor, and random objects moved right where I exit the bed, so that I step on them first thing in the morning. Once in a while, I promise I even hear giggling. Each time I've angrily asked my boyfriend if he was messing with me, and he always says no. Mind you, I've grown exceedingly good at telling when he's lying. We like to think of it as Josh doing his thing, playing practical jokes, something he was well known for. But this is nothing compared to what Josh did for me back in 2017. This time, it wasn't a prank. Whatever has been messing with me all these years, it literally saved my life. About 4 years ago, I went into anaphylactic shock. I lost the ability to speak or move my lower body. I was upstairs with a steep staircase separating me from my phone, which I left on the couch downstairs. I remember crawling to the stairs, knowing it could be fatal if I smashed into the wall at the landing at the end of the stairs. As I struggled, my brain running low on oxygen, I saw a vision of Josh, along with 2 other friends of mine who were also deceased. They ascended the stairs and carried my limp body down to the living room couch where my nebulizer and cell phone were. I picked up the phone and dialed 911, but I had no voice with which to explain the dire situation I was in. I looked up in desperation. My friends were all gone, except for Josh. He told me he was going to wake my boyfriend from the hammock, where he was napping in the backyard. Moments later, my boyfriend came running into the house, and by this point, I was dying. I could no longer use any part of my body, and no air came into my lungs when I tried to inhale. I remember thinking of my daughter and praying her father would help her navigate the loss and keep memories of me alive. Unfortunately, he actually died in a freak accident 8 months ago, so now I'm sort of fulfilling that role for him, but I digress. I struggled to remain conscious, but I was fading, fast. My boyfriend saw the phone with the 911 dialed, the operator waiting on the line, and my sweaty blue body. He told them he didn't think I was breathing, but by some miracle, there happened to be an ambulance passing through my neighborhood at that very time. The hospital was 30 minutes away, and it would have been too late if they sent one from there. My boyfriend later told me that when he was sleeping in the hammock, he saw Josh appear in his dreams, telling him that I was hurt. The coincidence of the ambulance passing through, plus my boyfriend's sudden premonition, saved my life. If it weren't for Josh and those EMTs, I wouldn't be here today. I remember the EMT asking my boyfriend if I had overdosed, which I had not. I wasn't on anything at the time. Apparently, once they gave me a large amount of epinephrine, I was blabbering on about dead people saving me. I guess it's no wonder they thought I was high. The doctors and EMTs were baffled at how I managed to get down the stairs, or even stay alive long enough to get help. I ended up getting out of that horrible situation with nothing more than a tiny bruise on my leg, along with the worst headache I'd ever had. Turns out, I'm allergic to the latex and spray paint. The weirdest thing is, I never met Josh when he was alive. I don't even know quite how I recognized him. Even if I did hallucinate him, I would imagine that it would be hard to do that with someone you've never met. Still, he looked exactly like the picture my boyfriend showed me. I've had a lot of paranormal encounters in my life, but my run-in with Josh saved me, and he never even knew me. When Josh died, he was only 15 years old. Like I said, it happened in my boyfriend's home. Josh's death shook the entire high school and ruined my boyfriend's reputation. He's carried immense guilt for it ever since. So, anyway, thank you, Josh, for giving me more time on this earth to spend with my daughter and my boyfriend. I wish we had met many years before. I do hope you are resting peacefully, but at the same time, I don't mind you popping in once in a while to check on us.
Very nice.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that is one of the rare stories that it's actually kind of a feel-good experience. You know, it's I love once in a while getting those ones that end well and it's kind of a happy ending versus, you know,
All doom and gloom.
it's just describing how horrible something is that,
Yeah.
you know, something is terrifying or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that was an intriguing story, and you love the twists.
Mm.
You know that is unexpected and you know seem frightful and eerie and everything else, but as you put it, it works out, and it's such a happy ending, really. Well, somewhat of a happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very intriguing story. Very.
Yeah.
You know, I know we all have had experiences that we simply can't explain.
Yeah.
You know, they just seem so far-fetched, and when you share them with others, they're like, what? And it's so hard for somebody to I guess, envision the experience because they weren't there. So it's so hard to sort of convey your experience without, there's just I guess there's a special way of conveying it or translating it. And it's really hard. It really is. Because I mean, some of these experiences, it's like, how do you put it into words?
Yeah, it's just takes a lot of time and trial and error, and it's like with these, not this one in particular, but the one before about with the centipede and the mimic and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The first version of that I wrote was, at the time I was like, all right, yeah, this is really good. And then 5 years later, after writing, maybe 100 stories since then, I looked at that and I'm like, man, this is completely unacceptable. Like I redid everything. And to me, it's, it came out a lot better, and it's, more atmosphere, more detail. Not that I'm making up details and adding them in, but certain things that don't materially change the actual information, but go leaps and bounds as far as making a person feel like they're in the moment. That's very important. There's some of those things I've been learning over the years to make sure that every story encapsulates some level of that. And I'm definitely not the best, but I get a little bit better every time I sit down and write one of those. I like to think.
Oh yeah, you do. Don't worry.
Alex, our drone guy's in chat.
Your drone guy?
Our drone footage.
Oh, Patrick. Hey, Patrick.
Yeah, it's
You guys have a drone guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's intense.
We're shooting a documentary right now, and the guy responsible for the drone footage is in our chat right now.
Oh, cool.
Something we were hoping to have done by this was initially supposed to be this show was initially supposed to be the premiere of the documentary, but unfortunately things haven't worked out that way, and some additional stuff had to be shot and everything else, and
fun times.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens. It does. You want to make sure it's good. You don't want to do a half-ass sort of job and people won't enjoy it, and I had to actually censor out Alex a few times. So. Just kidding.
Just being a bad boy.
Yeah.
I may look all nice and sweet, but I'm not.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Somehow I believe you.
Yeah. There you go. See?
It's the whiskey talking, Mr. X.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's. I guess
we got one last story.
Let's get into the last story here, and sort of. Tapping. I guess. So yeah, go for it.
All right. Give me a sec. Here we go.
Imagine you're out with your friends, celebrating an ancient festival, when something unexplainable happens right in front of your eyes. Listen to this story, and tell me what you think. Hey there, Mr. X. Greetings from Sweden. My name is Joel. I thought I'd tell you about something that happened to me and my friends a couple of years ago. One of my friends owns a summer house in the Stockholm archipelago, just outside of Sweden. It's on one of the smaller and less populous islands, but there are at least 10 people or so with summer houses there. A quick description of the summer house. It's not very big. A pretty large main living room connected to 2 smaller bedrooms, a kitchen and a bathroom barely large enough for a shower. The house is surrounded by sparse forest, just thick enough for the property to be pitch black during the night. The complete lack of streetlights on that part of the island is notable. So, one day, in late 2018, my friend invited me and a couple of other guys to hang out during the Walpurgis night, a sort of fertility celebration. I only know the English name, and I have no idea as to why it's named that or if it has anything to do with what we actually do for celebration nowadays. Basically, we were going to get drunk, have a barbecue, and a little bonfire. The first night we arrived, we had a great time. Great food, tons of adult beverages, and a raucous party around the fire. In all honesty, the party got a bit out of hand. We ended up having to drag out a water hose to stop the fire from getting out of control after it started spreading outside of the pit. After several hours, I finally had enough to drink. I figured that out when I could no longer sit up straight in my chair. I decided to head inside and find a bed. Being the first one to turn in for the night, I was able to have my pick of the litter. I went straight into what my drunk mind considered to obviously be the best bedroom. It was a very basic room, common among summer homes, I guess. A single bed, a nightstand, small dresser, a desk and chair, and a single window overlooking the backyard forest. The window was covered by a pull-down blind because it gets really bright in the morning. I pulled the blind down before collapsing into the bed. As I laid there, I fumbled with my phone to complete my normal ritual before going to sleep. I pulled up YouTube on my phone and started a playlist of a few videos from my favorite narrators. Not all of it is horror, but the playlist inevitably strays in that direction toward the end. I laid there awake for a lot longer than I was expecting. I listened to several stories. The last story ended, leaving me enveloped in a sort of eerie silence. A few minutes later, I started hearing faint tapping on the outside of the small window in the room. Individual, light taps started slowly, but multiplied over the course of a few seconds. Now, I love sleeping in the rain, and the calming sounds coming from the window brought the relaxing mental image of gentle showers moving over the island. I rolled over onto my side and finally fell asleep. A few hours later, I woke up. It was about 5 a.m., according to my phone. I crawled out of bed to go to the bathroom and maybe find something to drink. As I walked through the living room, I looked out the large windows facing the front of the house. The sun was starting to light up the sky. The entire lawn was bathed in this pale morning light, hampered by the mists that are common on the archipelago. I smiled to myself, appreciating the beauty of the moment. I did my business in the bathroom, grabbed a glass and filled it with whatever non-alcoholic liquid I could find, which ended up being a can of Fanta, before heading back to my room. As I shuffled back into the room, placing the glass on the nightstand, I froze. I noticed the sound of rain still emanating from the window. on the other side of the bed. I poked my head out the door and did a double take on the living room window. I didn't see a single sign of rain. In my post-sleep haze, I began to wonder if someone was playing a prank on me, or maybe someone had left the garden hose on and it was spraying my window. I went back into the living room and did a head count of the people sleeping around the house. Everyone was accounted for, and totally passed out. So once again, I checked the large window. I opened it and stuck my head out, where I could see the outside of the window of the room I had been sleeping in. I had to rub my eyes a bit because what I was seeing confused me. Floating near my window was what looked like a small cloud. It was grayish in color, about the size of a large yoga ball, if that makes sense. As I looked at it, I could see that there was motion inside of it, various shapes swirling and oscillating inside the mist. A chill went down my spine when I realized that the rain sounds must have been coming from whatever that was. Still being a bit hazy, I decided that if something was outside my window, I would be able to head back to my room and take a closer look. I wanted to try and record whatever was outside so I could show my friends when they woke up. I quietly closed the living room window, went back to my room, unlocked my phone, hit record, and slowly slid my phone under the closed blind. The rain sounds still rang out faintly. For some reason, I was a little scared to look out with my own eyes. I started to feel like I might be in danger somehow. I held the phone with a slightly shaky hand. After about 2 minutes, I pulled my phone back and opened up my video recordings folder. My heart was racing as I clicked on the video. When it started, I could clearly see that the gray mist hovering outside my window showed up on the screen. I began to feel a little sick when I started noticing what looked like hands with long fingernails tapping against the window. It was a swarm of human-looking hands, each one carefully and meticulously tapping gently, perfectly imitating the sound of rain. The entire frame of video was filled with this horrifying image. Countless hands. Knowing that I probably went too far at that point, I decided to shut the whole thing down. I didn't even want to wake my friends to bring anyone else into it. I pulled the mattress off my bed and dragged it into the living room. I plopped it down next to my still passed out friends. Maybe it was my desire to get away from the terror of that moment, but I was able to fall asleep surprisingly fast. I woke up again later that morning to see everyone slowly getting up. I immediately went back to the room to see if I could hear the rain. There was only silence. The silence emboldened me to pull the blinds open and look out the window. There was nothing out of the ordinary. In a series of decisions I obviously now regret, I decided not to mention the incident to my friends. I even stupidly deleted the video from my phone because I simply didn't want to think about it again. We were, after all, supposed to stay there another night. Anyway, I wanted to know if you or your listeners had any idea of what this might have been. I like to tell myself I was just sleepwalking or something, but it genuinely felt real. I was lucid throughout, although a little drunk. Anyway, thanks for listening, Mr. X. Sincerely, Joel.
Interesting. What could that possibly be?
As usual, I have no idea. I thought
wow.
the image of that was extremely unsettling. Just imagining looking out a window and seeing countless tiny fingernails attached to weird elongated hands, like a cluster of them like that. It's just super creepy to me.
How do you imagine? Like, how do you imagine that? That's just in. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
It starts off nice and serene and fun atmosphere and all peaceful morning when he wakes up. But yeah, it gets really weird.
You know it's good when Steve is at a loss for words.
I have my fingernails still.
If I was like a 3D animator, I would definitely try to recreate that, because the way it looks in my head is horrifying, and I would love to force other people to see that.
Hey X, one of your followers is listening to the show Nightmare Files.
Nightmare Files, yes.
Oh, hey, what's up, brother?
Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Wow.
Nightmare Files is freaking an intense dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's even scarier than my content by far. He does a lot of like true crime stuff too.
Oh wow, I love true crime. Some pretty insane stuff there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm definitely at a loss to figure out what that is. I've never heard of that before. Never.
It's another Lovecraftian creature, no?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Somebody's screwing around your pituitary gland, and I just think of there's this movie from H.P. Lovecraft. Somebody made a movie From Beyond, from one of his stories, and that movie came to mind because what he was seeing in the movie, like and again in the story, are just images that you're wow, how it just it is beyond comprehension. Other than you see the fingernails but elongated fingers, but you just the way they're
Yeah,
presented,
and it was
doesn't
just
make
like a
sense.
cloud out just hovering outside the window.
Yeah.
The most confounding thing about that to me is the fact that he deleted the video.
Oh wow.
And which is what I was thinking when I heard that, because when I'm looking at it and he says, yeah, I pulled out a phone and slid it up underneath the window, underneath the blinds. I was like, okay,
I gotta see
this is interesting. I hope that he attached the video to this, because then we're all going to be rich. But,
well, yeah. Wow.
but apparently, whenever people take videos of these types of things, they tend to somehow vanish from existence,
Vanish,
unfortunately. Yeah. So what I put a disclaimer afterwards, because on my channel, nowadays, whenever I do a story, I read it live and actually discuss it with the people who are listening at the time. And then that commentary and the discussion, I put it in the actual the release of the video with the sound effects and all that. And in that discussion portion, I said, hey, please promise me, if any of you ever get anything on video, do not delete it for any reason.
Save it.
Yes. Just send it to me and then delete it. Dude, that's fine.
Yeah. Back it up. We'll just say anonymous.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's awesome.
Oh man. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. And we really do need to have you back for a full show.
Yeah, absolutely. How long is the full show?
2 hours.
2 hours. 2 hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, one of these days I can't even manage a full show of my own for 2 hours right now.
Yeah.
But one of these days I'll be back for a nice extended period of time. But it was a pleasure, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Trust me, the pleasure is ours.
Yes, thank you for joining us, and the stories are amazing. And get your info out there for people that are watching and want to know more about Mr. X.
Absolutely. Hit me up anywhere: Twitter, Instagram, Mr.X Dreams, and especially on YouTube. That's my main bread and butter, of course. And yeah. If you got a story, hit me up on one of those platforms, or you can email me at mr.xdreams54@gmail.com.
And guys, check it out. I mean, when Alex says, "Oh yeah, have you seen Mr. X Dreams?" No, where? Man.
I got him hooked on you, X.
You got me hooked, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys.
Well, we appreciate you coming on and being kind and coming back on the show. And like I said, you're always welcome here.
Sounds good, brother. Hey, you have a good night. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah, take care, my friend.
Take care. Have a good night.
Good night. Wow. Really cool stories, man.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really cool stories. And I'd love to have him back on for a full show. And
yeah, for sure. But anyway, for people who are listening live now, and for people who are going to be watching this after the fact, you really do need to check out his channel. I mean, what we played today is just a small sample of what he's got in his channel. He's got some really fantastic stories on there. So just go check it out and, sub and, subscribe and like and all that good stuff.
And we're normally live on Sunday nights between 9 and 11. But I will get the audio portion of this to Ray so he can play on newvisionsradio.com.
Okay.
In our usual slot on New Vision. So people have something to listen to on Halloween. This show, obviously.
Awesome.
For Halloween. Yeah, once again, thanks goes out to Mr. X for providing some really cool stories, and awesome. We're going to take a break here, and we're going to open the lines. Guys, if you got a story, we want to hear them. So don't be afraid. Call in. Alex won't bite.
I promise I won't bite.
The number to call, and we'll do it after we'll open the lines when we come back. But the number to call is 716-406-4472. We'll repeat it when we come back, and we'll put it in the chat for you guys. If you have a story, an experience, or whatever you'd like to share with us, please, we'd love to hear it. That's in the second half of the show. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more Halloween goodness. You're watching Nocturnal Frequency Radio here. Welcome back, man.
Welcome back.
If you're just joining us, we had Mr. X the host of Mr. X Dreams here on YouTube.
Link in the description, folks.
Yeah.
Check them out.
Some really, really cool stories. Like, I mean, scary stuff. Like, weird. Like, we're off the charts.
You know what I really like about his channel, and I know you do too, because you listen to a lot of his stories now. I mean, I've listened to a plethora of like horror narrators in the past. One of the things I like about Mr. X is that his channel is not just about horror. He's got that element in it, but he relates weird stories that happen to the average person. Anybody can submit stories to him, and you know, if it's interesting enough, I mean, if it's weird enough, I guess, maybe, if you want to call it that, he'll you know, make it into an episode. And it's one. He also does live streams on his channel too, where I've joined a couple of his live streams, and you know what? One of the reasons why I like Mr. X so much is because he's really down to earth. He's not one of those guys that, you know, hey, you know what? I'm up here, everybody else is down here, sort of thing. He acknowledges everybody that goes on his channel during live streams, and he interacts with people all the time, right? So that's one of the things I really enjoy about Mr. X.
Well, I think that's key. When you have a show, I think people like to, you know, feel that they're noticed. I mean, it's not you're not just somebody in, you know, lurking and trolling and whatever else. You know, you're saying stuff and people are noticing. I mean, you know, that's what I think a lot of shows should do. I mean, you know, and I get it. People, there are people that are, you know, shows that are really popular, and you know, you get on there and you say something and it doesn't, it goes unnoticed.
Oh yeah, well that's understandable. I mean, if you have like 200-300 people during a live stream, for example, all commenting on the side chat there, it's next to impossible for someone to acknowledge every single chat, right? And I get it. Don't get me wrong, but you know, it seems like Mr. X goes out of his way to try to acknowledge everybody that's on his channel at the time of the live stream. He'll do his thing, and then he'll take sort of like a pause from what he's doing and to sort of acknowledge all the listeners, which is kind of cool. And you know, it's one of those things. It's like. And as we said before, he's got the perfect voice for this kind of stuff. So
bang on.
Yeah, if you've enjoyed the stories we played tonight from Mr. X, do check out his channel. Even if you're not a fan of, you know, the weird stuff, the horror stuff, check it out, see what he's about, and who knows, you may enjoy it.
You know, I can almost guarantee you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, like we've mentioned, his voice alone, it's perfect for it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times we've said this when we've had Mr. X on, or talked about the show. That is the one key element, I think, other than, you know, how he is able to translate the stories that he receives, the experiences, whatever. But his voice, I mean, the voice. It's bold, it's very, but yet it's not intimidating.
That's right.
You know, it's like, oh, this guy sounds like he could be a really good friend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very reasonable, but at the same time, he's able to translate and get what he needs to, you know, cross.
Yep.
And it's yeah, great show. Check it out, Mr. X Dreams, here on YouTube.
So we're going to open up the lines?
Cool. Yeah. Excuse me. The lines are open. 716-406-4472 is the number to call. If you have a story pertaining to Halloween, or you just have a really fucked up experience, something that just has stuck with you your life and you can't explain it. We want to hear it. Give us a call. Once again, that number is 716-406-4472. And yeah, we'll get you on to talk about, tell us that story. We've kind of mentioned a few times about these stories or experiences that we've had, Alex, that we sort of, I don't know. I remember, it's funny going back, I was going through back the archives, and one of the Halloween specials we did, I think it was one of the first Halloween specials we did. And I was listening to it and going, oh my God, I'm relaying a story, an experience that I had when I was a kid. And I'm like, I totally forgot about it, man. It's there in the back of my mind, but I just, it was tucked away, and I couldn't, I wasn't thinking about it. I hadn't thought about it probably since that time, and basically what it was, I remember, living at, my parents' place, I was probably about 13 years old or something like that. I can't remember how old I was. And I was asleep, and I woke up. I had to go to the washroom. So, get up, turn my nightlight on, and I put my glasses on. Fucking glasses. What a pain in the ass. Even when I got to get up to go to the washroom in the middle of the night, I can't see. I put my glasses on, and I used to sleep with my door closed. My bedroom door was closed. And I remember opening my bedroom door, and as soon as I opened my bedroom door, I see this arm, bloody, just feeling the wall, and disappearing from the frame of the door. And holy shit, I fucking slammed my door shut, and I'm screaming for my dad. I'm like, what the fuck? Dad, right? And nobody's responding. And I'm like, am I having a nightmare here? What the hell? Did somebody kill my parents? And that was the blood on the arm that I saw? Oh man, I was just like, what do I do? There's somebody in the fucking house. And you said, oh fuck, man. Okay, whatever. I garnered up enough bravery, and I opened the door and I jetted for my parents' room, not knowing what I'm going to see, thinking, okay, they're dead. And of course, when I ran into the room and they were all right, they were fine, they were sleeping, I wake them up and I said, Dad, there's somebody in the fucking house. Right? What do you mean there's somebody in the house? There's somebody in the house. They're feeling the wall by my room. And, I was screaming for you guys. You didn't hear me, whatever. I had them looking, for the, looking for whatever, the entire house, basement, you name it. Of course, there's nobody there. But I mean, like, I was awake. I know I was awake. But to see that, it's like, what the fuck, man? And I remember years later doing some research, and this was like a townhome, and it had there was, I think, 30 units in this townhouse complex, and it had a basement that connects. You can go to the section where you can do your laundry and all that kind of shit, and maintenance and all that kind of stuff. And I remember that fucking hallway it scared the shit out of me, man. It was fucking creepy as hell. But I remember doing research and finding out that somebody was killed in that hallway years ago. And I sat there and I thought, okay, maybe, just maybe, there was some sort of connection to what I saw that night. What do you think?
It's very possible. Yeah.
You know?
That's a pretty intense story.
It was intense. I remember, man. I was fucked, man. I don't think I've ever been that scared in my life. You know, the thought that somebody's actually in the house and murdered your parents.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know. Of course, you look back at it and you laugh at it now and go, "Oh my God, that was so hilarious." But, you know, when you're a kid, you don't know.
Well, no, exactly. You see anything like a bloody arm and all that. It's like that alone in itself is enough to scare most kids. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
To scream for your parents and they don't respond. That's even worse.
Once again, the lines are open. 716-406-4472 is the number to call. Alex, I don't know. Have you had an experience?
Not that intense, no.
Yeah.
I mean, the story I related when Mr. X was on about getting over the fear of flying was probably one of the most intense, I guess, experiences that I've had. Yeah. You know, I mean, I know we joke about me being a ghost attorney and all that, but realistically speaking, I have not experienced anything that intense. I guess the only thing I can say that maybe comes close to it, if anything, was the Whippy Asylum when we went one day. It was a bunch of us who went up. A couple of people who came up with us were I guess, for lack of a better term, skeptical, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I told them about the place. They wanted to go check it out. So we're like, okay, fine, let's go. We went up that night, right? We all got in our cars. We drove up to Whitby, and we went and in the and I still remember it was building 18. We went in. It was the first building we went into. It was one of the smaller ones. It only had 4 rooms. It was one level plus a basement. So we went into the main level. Mm-hmm. And, we went in on one side. So there's 2 rooms there. And then a connecting hallway to the other 2 rooms on the opposite end of the building. Yeah. So we were there and a bunch of us there. And that was the only way to get into the building because everything else was boarded up. So we were there checking out, and you got stuff strewn all over the floor, paint peeling off the walls, graffiti everywhere. It looked like a typical horror movie sort of thing, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm doing some EVP sessions. I'm telling everybody to shut up and whatever, and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so I go at some point I go, okay, let's go to the other end of the building, and let's see if we can find anything there or see what's there. So as we're walking towards the other end of the building, all of us heard additional footsteps on top of our own that were happening behind us from where we came. All right. So at this point, we're close to the other end of the building, and I told everybody, I go, okay, all of you stay here, because I was one of the 2 people that had flashlights. I told everybody, stay here. I'm going to go back to where we came from, and I'm going to see if anybody came in, just to make sure. Because it was nighttime, right? So I went back. I didn't see anybody. Nobody was there. So I told everybody, I waved to everybody. I said, come back this way and let's see what happens. So they start coming back towards me to the original spot where we first started. And now the additional footsteps were sounding from the opposite end, which is kind of weird because the only way to get into that building was from where we entered at the beginning of the building, the one side of the building. So where those footsteps came, I have no idea. Needless to say, those 2 people who were skeptical quickly changed their mind and just wanted to get the hell out of there. They didn't want to stick around anymore. And, Steve's showcasing his girlfriend right now in case people, don't see it. You might want to move it towards your face a little bit more. It's kind of cut off on the other way. There you go. There's his girlfriend. She's kind of red-eyed. I think she's been up all night.
Boozing, man, boozing.
Yeah.
One of the many props for the Halloween display this year. You know, we were talking, and you know, I told you about one of our favorite places closing up.
Yep.
The Amazing Party Store.
Yep.
I mean, when you needed to get props, costumes, and Halloween stuff, it was the best place to go to.
Agreed.
And I mean, even before COVID started, it was starting to fall apart. Because I mean, when they moved their location from Oxford to Mississauga, I think that was stupid.
Did you say Oxford?
Yeah, it was in Oxford.
The Amazing Party Store was in Toronto.
Yeah, on Oxford.
On the street. Okay.
Yeah, that was the street. It was on Oxford.
Yeah.
Just off Oxford and the Service Road, right?
Yeah.
It was, but technically Oxford, which is just over from Kipling. But I mean, when he split the store in two, when he just kept that location for, basically for costumes and shit like that, and he took the props and the Halloween shit and he put it in the in a warehouse across the highway. It was like no one was going over there because nobody really knew where it was. So when he split it up, it kind of sucked. And then now after that they put it in the whole thing in Mississauga. It wasn't the same because remember the displays they used to have?
Oh yeah.
The fucking displays they had were amazing.
Yeah, they were. And I mean, I get the idea of what he was trying to do. He wanted to have more room for the props and more room for the costumes, but he kind of fucked it up because when he moved the props to the other location across the highway, he didn't really set up any displays, or at least not good ones anyway.
Well, he had a couple, he had a few of them set up, but it wasn't the same because it seemed like it was crammed. It was crammed. I mean, grant you, in at the Oxford, the original location, I mean, he did have stuff on the outside, when, you walked up to the place, he had displays on the outside too, near the end. He had a tent set up out the front with all the displays. But I mean, that fucking, the one year he did the 50s diner with the zombies, that was amazing. I think I got a picture somewhere still. I don't know. Do you remember that?
Yeah, vaguely. I do remember seeing some of the displays inside that had that theme going.
Oh, that was I think one of the best ones. I know I have a picture. I'll send it to you. But yeah, I was like when they started doing that, it just it was the end of it. I mean, it was all over.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, it sucked because I enjoyed going there every year. That place, when you went there, it kind of got you or me anyway. I can't speak for everybody else, but it got me in the mood.
Yeah, I looked forward. That was when my friend passed away, 2002 or 2001. The routine for me was, I would go visit his grave on, the 16th of October, because that's when he passed away. And I do it yearly. We'd always go to this little farmer's market far and pick up a couple pumpkins and lay one on his grave there because he was big. He was a big Halloween guy. He was a big horror movie nut like me, obviously. And these are traditions that I would do, and one of them that we used to do every year was go to the Amazing Party Store. It was like you knew it was Halloween. You knew, bang. Even if you weren't in the mood, you'd go to this place. You were definitely, like you said, it would get you in the mood. And now that's gone. It's gone. I mean, there's no, like, I have nowhere to go. Like, you can go into like Home Depot and shit like that, and they've got props, but they're not the same. They're not the same. And now, basically, people are resorted to going online and buying this shit. And you have to be wary about buying shit online still. I mean, I was looking at this pretty cool this evil pumpkin figure thing, and I think it was like $80 on Amazon, and I'm like, come on, this is $80? No, it can't be $80. I'm reading the description, and it says $80. Okay, and then I did a little bit of research, and I found the same exact thing on the original artist's website. So this guy makes one of a kind props. And they're probably not one of a kind, but they're one of a kind in the aspect that this guy, and he makes so many of them. The thing was $800 US. $800. So some dude in China was ripping this shit off and selling it on eBay, or sorry, not eBay, but Amazon of all places. You really have to be careful, even on Amazon Marketplace. You really do. You got to be very careful, because chances are you're not getting what you're paying for. And I'm like, it's amazing how it goes from $80 to $800. It was the pumpkin in his hand that was $80. But you're led to believe you're getting that complete figure for $80.
That's crazy.
You're not like, so what are you doing for Halloween? Any plans?
No plans this year.
No.
I know my neighbor where we do the haunted house. He set up some decoration, but he's not doing anything. Like, he's just gonna have candy right there on his porch, and let the kids come up and grab them. But I'm hoping that next year things will be back to normal in that sense, where we can actually set up the whole setup that we've been doing for so many years and start scaring the kids again. Because I kind of miss that. It was 2 years in a row now that we're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I set it up last year. I only did a partial sort of makeshift thing. This year I think I'm gonna go back to normal this year, because I mean, basically it seems it's not back to normal, but it is back to normal. I mean, yeah, COVID's there still, but it's not. Hey Lee, how are you? Thanks for joining us. It's not the same still.
No.
You still got to remember it, and it sucks. It really does. It really does. Once again, the number, if you want to call, is 716-406-4472. Hold on. Excuse me. Sorry, but I'll need a drink here.
Too much drinking there, huh?
Windpipe.
Sure, blame it on the windpipe.
Yeah. Holy crap. Wow. Anyways, yeah. So if you have any, holy moly, stories pertaining to Halloween, look that we just lost all our viewers with that. Holy crap! Wow. Um. Yeah. So, anyways, any stories pertaining to Halloween or scary stories, whatever, we want to hear them. 716-406-4472. Once again, we want to thank Mr. X, host of Mr.X Dreams, for joining us in the first hour. Some really cool stories, man.
Yep. Most definitely.
Which one did you enjoy the most?
I kind of enjoyed the Mimic one, the first one. That was a pretty intense one.
That was really intense.
Yeah. I mean, it hits more to home now because I have a newborn as well, right? So it's one of those things.
True. Very, very true. Yeah, out of all of them, that was the most intense.
Yeah.
It didn't have that happy sort of ending too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The other two sort of, the second one had a happy ending, but the third one was kind of just weird. Like, very weird.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I can't even begin to think of anything I've ever experienced in my life that would come to that weirdness. And I've seen some weird shit, but what that guy saw, no. I can't even fathom anything that I've experienced in my life. You?
Nope. Can't say that I have.
Oh man. Oh god. It's weird.
You know what's weird is what's interesting is that I go out looking for this stuff and I can't find it to save my, save whatever the term is for it. But
yeah, but what exactly are you looking for though?
Any sort of so I guess I'm looking for solid evidence of the existence of an afterlife.
Yeah.
Whether that be through capturing EVPs of intelligent sort of hauntings, or Ouija board sessions with someone who can actually answer questions that are relevant and not just be some random shit that comes through, or whether that be through a series of very intense dreams that sort of makes me say, okay, there's definitely more to this than meets the eye, sort of thing. You know what I mean? And no matter what I do, if I have I haven't played the Ouija board in a long time, mind you, but when I used to play it on a regular basis, we used to get some random shit just spewing out. And you can argue that it was just whoever else was playing with you that was just fucking around, right?
Yeah.
It's just as legitimate of an argument as, saying it was actually a spirit coming through both of us, right?
Yeah.
But, and this is why when I played with Frank, you know who Frank is, right?
Yeah.
But when I played with him, it seemed to work the best with him for some weird reason. When I played with other people, the planchette was going all over the fucking place, right? And it's like, okay, I know you're fucking pushing it. Don't be stupid, right? But with him, it was like calm. It moved. It went to the letters really smoothly. And when I did it with Frank at another friend's office building, or he had an office in this building downtown, and this is the same skeptic that came to Whippy and then later ended up shitting his pants and wanting to go home. But so I told him, I go, hey, let's do a Ouija board session in your office, right, late at night.
Yeah.
I went in, brought my Ouija board. Frank and I played it, and to sort of prove to him that it wasn't us just fucking around, I go, listen, you want to know if this actually works or not? the best way to do it is you ask questions you only know the answers to. That's the only way I can prove to you that neither Frank or I are fucking around with you. Right? And if it answers correctly, there you go. You got your answer. If not, then you could say, call it horse shit. You know what I mean? But apparently it answered correctly, according to him. Right? He was asking the questions only he knew the answers to, so he said the answers was right. So, hey, there you go. Right? Now, whether that's... Here's the issue, though, for me. That doesn't necessarily tell me that this is someone who once used to be alive and breathing in this, this physical realm. It could be anything. I mean, I'm a believer that, there's multiple layers to our universe. You know what I mean? Or a multiverse, whatever you want to call it. And that we can tap into other sort of realms. But, and even within our own sort of universes, different sort of realms within that. So I'm a believer of that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's someone who used to be once alive on this plane and now has moved on to the next existence. That's what I'm trying to get confirmation on. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm having difficulty. Right?
Okay, let me ask you one more time.
Yeah.
Exactly what are you looking for, though?
Again, I'm looking
when you're you've explained, what you're looking for, but what are you looking for when you're looking for this?
I'm looking for
all that stuff.
Okay, so you're aware both my parents have passed.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
For me to be able to get in contact with them directly and, sort of have them, answer questions that I may have about the next existence or next step, whatever you want to call it, would be something that I would be primarily interested in, or not me, if not them, but then a relative like my grandfather or, one of my uncles who passed away, or both my uncles, or, that I was close to that passed away. Mm-hmm. Anybody that I know, that I knew that has passed away, if I can get in contact with them and sort of confirm that it is them and not someone just pulling my leg, so to speak, is what I'm basically looking for. And that really boils down to the fact that I'm looking for confirmation that we, as a sort of, as a being, for lack of a better term, do go on past the physical realm. You know what I mean?
So, so your physical vessel ends, but your spiritual or your energy lives on.
Who I am, my essence, basically. Yeah. Call it what you will. Energy, spirit, soul, whatever.
And I completely agree with that. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't when you look at energy as being an infinite sort of aspect. It never dies.
No, it doesn't. But my concern is not so much that. I mean, I'm pretty certain that once our physical bodies cease to work, the energy that is comprised within our bodies carries on. However, that's not what I'm concerned about. My concern is our being, is who we are, who I am, who you are. Does that carry on? Or is it just an empty sort of energy shell, so to speak? You know what I mean?
Well,
with some residual memory.
Exactly.
Right.
And I mean, well, there's one thing for sure. Our residual energy never dies. I mean, it's constantly there. That never dies. Yeah. I mean, that echoes in, space and time, the universe, continuously. Intelligently, are we aware of what happens when we move on to the next sort of phase, if you will? Are we aware of what's happening? Are we understanding what's happening? Are we experiencing what's happening? That's a really, really, a question, obviously, we all want to know, and we don't find out until we actually go through that phase ourselves.
Right.
But I mean, I like to think we do. I like to think that we do. I know that sounds hollow and that sounds so cliche and everything else, but I can't believe, and I don't believe, and I'm not looking at this from a religious standpoint, because I don't think it's necessary, but I really do believe we are aware of what happens. We really do understand what happens when we sort of pass through that sort of portal, if you will.
So
I really do.
So here's the
really
$1 million question then. Do you believe in reincarnation?
I'm not sure if I necessarily believe in reincarnation. I mean, there are stories out there that make you think twice about it. I don't know if I don't know if I wholeheartedly have bought into reincarnation or not still.
Right, and then the only reason why I ask is because I've had a past life regression done.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
Yeah. And it was a weird scenario, right? It was just a weird thing altogether. Now, granted, our minds and subconscious minds can be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Creative, to say the least, and can be concocting this whole thing up. And I'm fully aware that that's a possibility. But just it's just one of those things. I wanted to try it. I wanted to see if there was any validity to it, if anything came out of it. And, it was an experience that was interesting, to say the least, right? But, I mean, if you think about that, let's assume, just for the sake of the argument, that reincarnation is a reality, that we do come back.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't explain the constant increase in population, right? Because if it's the same souls coming back over and over and over again, you'd have the same amount of population over and over again. So there's obviously something else, playing out as well. And you could argue, okay, it's new souls being born and blah, 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 whatever. Fine. But it's funny how if past life, or if reincarnation exists, why can't we remember a damn thing? Like not even just a smidgen of, whatever might have happened in a past life. You know what I mean? That's what puzzles me. It's weird. And if I take what happened in my past life regression, where I was in that so-called past life to where I am now,
mm-hmm.
I don't understand where the correlation would be. You know what I mean? Because if the point is to come back to learn from your mistakes, there's a huge gap missing there. Because I was like, the past life, unless it went back to a past life that was way back when, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch that I didn't go through, that could be a possibility. But whatever. It was just one of those things, right?
Yeah,
it was interesting.
And I think it kind of relies on how far somebody is willing to go to really understand that. And I mean, we have both really gone over and above, I think, trying to understand more so than others.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at what we do. Look what we've done. Investigating the paranormal and claims of hauntings and all sorts of things. I mean, people that we've had on the show, and look at you've had, I mean, past life regression segment. I mean, realistically, Alex, what are your thoughts? I mean, do you really think it's viable? Do you really believe it? I mean, be honest.
I don't know if I truly believe it yet, only because it's like I said, because if souls get recycled, for lack of a better term, and they keep coming back, it doesn't explain the increase in population as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
If anything, the population would decrease, because if the point of reincarnation is to come back to learn a lesson, once you finally learned all the lessons you needed to learn, you're not coming back. So if that's the case, the population should technically decrease. And it doesn't. It's exploded in the last 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Right? So it's one of those things. It's like, do I believe it? Is it possible? Might be possible. Maybe in some instances it is. I don't wholeheartedly believe it, just because of the factors that I've just explained, right? I mean, it's hard for me to believe something to be the case when there are so many sort of what ifs or whys, why the answers that haven't been questioned. Sorry, questions that haven't been answered, satisfactorily.
When you look back to when you were running Phantom Easy,
In what sense?
in the sense where, some of the stories and things that you were covering and published on there.
Well, I mean, the majority of the stories were just, unfortunately, were pretty much all my articles, because no one else seemed to want to contribute.
But I mean, you did have contribution from people, right? I mean,
to some extent. I mean, I know Chris Hawley contributed a couple articles to the zine. But I mean, at the time, I guess you could argue I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, so to speak, in the paranormal.
But okay, well, why did you start Phantom Easy? What was your purpose?
My purpose was to sort of explore like the paranormal in a different light. A lot of the like 14 times, and what was the other one? There was another one that at the time that was pretty popular.
Who forded?
Which one?
Who forded?
Who forded? Well, that was online only, but I mean, like, there was actual, like, the 14 times was an actual legitimate, not legitimate.
Yeah.
I hate saying that, because it's even in online e-zines are illegitimate, but it was a paperback edition that eventually went online. But anyway, so there was a couple of, and what I've noticed with anything that deals with the paranormal, it's the same thing over and over and over again. Oh, this place is haunted. They go on to describe what's been happening there, who went in to investigate, what they found and what they didn't find. There was very little in the way of having articles that sort of expanded on the paranormal based on perspective, right? Mm-hmm. So getting a personal perspective from individuals as far as what they believe the paranormal is, regardless of whether they went out to an investigation or not. All right? Because everybody has their own take on what the paranormal may or may not be. So have at it. Tell me what it is, and say in your own words what you think it is or isn't, for that matter, right? And that was the goal that I wanted to achieve with Phantom E-zine, was to basically have a sort of like an e-zine where you have articles that provoke thought about the paranormal, and try to think outside the box, right?
And you know what? It's really hard to get people to share that. It's really hard to get people to sort of, I get you. I hear you. It's there are times when you want to scream and say, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. But it's like you provide something and people, they just lurk. They're like the ghosts that don't want to fucking announce that they're there.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck do I need to do? Like, come on, wake up. But let's look at it this way. Most people misunderstand what the paranormal is. Mm-hmm. Period. I mean, the paranormal, that's ghosts. That's, hauntings. And, no, the paranormal is simply, it means the unknown.
Yep.
Yet to be explained by science. And that's why it's called the paranormal. You know, and it's only a matter of time before certain things are explained, certain theories that are out there. And I mean, let's face it, the paranormal is full of theories.
Yep.
A shitload of theories doesn't mean they're right.
That's right.
People think automatically, oh, well, the theory is it must be real, it must be right. No, it's a theory. It is yet to be proven. Right?
That's the problem.
That's why I always said I hate using the word fucking evidence. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody says, oh, I've got evidence of the paranormal, you're so full of fucking shit. You don't have evidence of anything. You don't know that's evidence. How do you know that's evidence? It's like walking into a true crime, walking into a crime scene, a murder scene or whatever, and saying, oh, my theory is that this person stabbed that person and walked away and hid the gloves under the rock and whatever else. And that's what happened. That's essentially the same bullshit.
Yep.
It's called investigating the paranormal. Most people don't know how to do that. Most people don't know how to do research. Most people, when they get into this shit, they haven't got a clue. They're so fucking lost.
Yeah.
You know,
what kills me more than that aspect of it, even though that's a big problem in and of itself, is not only do you have people who don't really know how to investigate properly, or legitimately for that matter, but they boast about what they do.
Oh,
that's what kills me even more so than anything. Like, I mean, people listen. We were both there at one point in our paranormal career, so to speak. We both started off and we both didn't know what the fuck we were doing. That's a given. And you learn that through the years of trial and error, doing things that, you know, this worked, this didn't work. Okay, so let's do it this way or whatever. Point is, I don't blame people who don't know what they're doing necessarily. What I do blame them, or what I do have a problem with, is if they don't do things, in my view, correctly, and then they're crass enough to boast about it. That it irritates me more than anything else, because it's like, how can you possibly be that confident talking about a field that is literally unknown?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You cannot be this boastful. You cannot be this sort of ignorant, for lack of a better term.
When you look at, if you can't stand being criticized, then you're in the wrong field.
Yeah.
You know, when you present what you call evidence, and if you don't like the scrutiny it comes under, then you're in the wrong field. You really should not be a part of this.
Yeah. Agreed.
If you're going to sit there and say, no, it is proof of the paranormal, you're in the wrong field. Because you haven't got a fucking clue if it is proof or not. You don't. You don't have the credentials. You don't have the knowledge, in many cases, to prove that it is the paranormal. You don't know. This is why you leave things open. You say, look, I have findings. I have found something that is interesting. Please let me know your thoughts. This is why collectively, if we work together, we would find the answers a lot quicker than working against each other. And that's the problem.
Yeah, agree.
And there is no organization. It's look at I'm looking for a TV show, and we've exacerbated that. We've been through that. We've done it. We've talked it to death. And you sit there and what's the point? I mean, nobody listens.
Yep.
So you simply look at, don't worry about what people are saying. If you're serious about wanting to know about the paranormal, to understand it, then do research. Research is your best friend. And look at things from all angles. Don't look at it from one angle because you're going to get lost. Don't assume. Assumption doesn't jive in the paranormal. And have your findings reviewed, peer reviewed. Don't assume because you have got something that it's paranormal. Because 99% of the time, it's not. 99% of the time, somebody who is an expert in a certain field will come back and tell you that's not paranormal. They will explain to you exactly what it is. But that's another problem, Alex. People don't want to hear it.
No.
People don't want to hear it.
Well, because they're so vested in trying to find proof and in their belief of the paranormal that when it comes to beliefs, any kind of belief, whether it be paranormal, religious, political, you name it, people in general, people tend to go in it with such fervor that when they have their mind set on something, it's very hard to sway them. Even if you try, even if you provide them with proof to the contrary, doesn't matter. It's just one of those things. It's like, oh yeah, you're bullshitting me. It's not true. And then they go on thinking whatever they want to think anyway. Right?
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem, right? I mean, we're stubborn. As a species, we're very, very stubborn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's a voice of reason, but nobody's listening.
Yeah.
So, all right, my friend, I think we'll end this.
All right.
We'll end this, and I want to thank Mr. X for joining us in the first hour and sharing some really cool stories for the Halloween season here.
Mm-hmm.
You can catch this. I will be sending the audio portion of the show to Ray, and you can hear it on New Visions Radio Network this Sunday, hopefully. Of course, you can watch it here. Obviously, here the archives are 24/7. So enjoy and thank you everybody who joined us live here on the show. And thank you to all who are going to check out the archive. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel here. We have some more shows down the pipeline. Our good friend Keith Age will be joining us in November 14th, I think it is, right?
Yep. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, November 14th. Keith Age is classically known as the rock and roll ghost hunter.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first to pretty much be commercialized, if you will, in the ghost hunting world. He will be joining us. He's been on several times, so it'd be good to hear what's new with Keith. Until then, thank you for joining us, and we're back next Sunday night at a regular slot, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, both here and, of course, on the New Visions Radio Network. Thank you for joining us this evening, and take care, everyone.
Have a good night, everyone.